Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Chantel Aubry, and I'm the Business Development Manager here at Emergence. I am pleased to be your moderator today and to welcome you to our webinar, where we will show you how to streamline and automate processes and documents with PaperSave. But just a few housekeeping items before we get started. In order to keep the flow of the presentation moving along and on schedule, the audience is on mute today, but we still want to keep this as interactive as possible. So what we ask is that you please type in your questions in the side panel, and we'll review and answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. We'll also have some poll questions for you today throughout the webinar, and that's to gauge your opinions live. So we'll be able to see the results as we go along, which should be really interesting. Now, because we have quite a few people in attendance today that are new to Emergence, I'd like to give you a super quick overview of Emergence. We are a Bermuda-based organization, and we are a business solution provider. Our primary focus, and what we're probably known for the most, is the implementation and support of business platforms such as Dynamics GP and Dynamics CRM. But we also have a large focus on corporate performance management, corporate reporting, business intelligence, and business automation. We have a staff of 35 people, including solution architects, business analysts, accountants, and functional and technical consultants. We have people who have been with the organization for 10, 15, and even 20 years, but we also have a lot of new people as well. Emergence has hired 8 people in the last year alone, so our recruitment efforts are still very much ongoing. We're in that growth mode, which is always a great place to be. We have over 150 clients here in Bermuda, many of which who have offices overseas, so we support many of those offices as well. We have a balanced portfolio of financial services companies, distribution companies, and local and international businesses. And finally, we have access to a large network of trusted solution partners. Microsoft has a very large ecosystem of third-party vendors, so we spend a lot of time evaluating new partners to bring solutions that meet the requirements of our clients in the Caribbean market. And that's exactly how we came to partner with PaperSave. We were looking for a new solution that could offer superior content management and workflow to help our clients go paperless. It was an ask that our clients had, and also to streamline their processes to improve both their service levels and their bottom line. So after evaluating several solutions, we decided on PaperSave, and it's been a really great addition to our portfolio. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to our presenter today, Tammy Bauer, who joined PaperSave in 2007 as an account manager. She was responsible for building the awareness and client base of PaperSave in the Microsoft Dynamics channel. Having started her career as an accounts payable administrator and then moving into software sales in the 90s, Tammy has over 20 years of experience in the accounting world. This experience has provided her with the understanding of accounting processes, the challenges companies face with these processes, and the knowledge to apply applications to these processes. So her ability to listen and really understand these needs have driven her to provide best practices utilizing today's technologies. So with that being said, apologies, I'm going to hand that over to you, Tammy.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to demonstrate PaperSave to you all and talk to you about what PaperSave can bring to the table and what that means to your organization. And boy, with that introduction, I hope I live up to that. So I'm looking forward to the next 55 minutes with you guys to talk about PaperSave, demonstrate what it can do. We're going to actually go through a live presentation about our document management, workflow, and automation. But before we do that, I know there are a lot of ways that people are storing their documents currently. And so I'd like to introduce our first poll. And so I'm going to bring that up. And you should see the poll now. And if you could take a few minutes to answer, how are you currently storing your documents? Just click on one of those radio buttons. And Selena, I think you'll let us know when we should close that poll and what the results are. These polls within these webinars are great because it kind of helps me gauge where I need to focus a lot of my attention today.
Responses are still coming in, Tammy, so we'll wait just a
Okay.
couple more seconds.
Okay, sure. So while we're waiting, in that introduction, it said that I was an accounts payable administrator, and I also sold accounting software. That really ages me when it talks about the number of years I've been in the industry, but it does lend itself to understanding what the pain points are for you all today. And by looking at this poll, the majority of you are still using filing cabinets to store your documents, which, quite frankly, is what I was doing in the 80s when I was an accounts payable administrator. I think we'll go ahead and close the poll. How about that?
Yeah, we've got the results on the screen.
Perfect. All right. So as you can see, the majority of you are using filing cabinets. Some of you are using a combination of those filing cabinets and the above. Very interesting. With the digital world, obviously we want to make use of what we're able to do within the world of capturing documents and storing them. But we really do need to think about kicking that paper habit, right? So you should see my screen change now. And I'm going to talk about the top 3 reasons for kicking the paper habit. And I apologize, do I need to do anything with that? Can you see my screen change?
Yeah, we've got your screen.
Perfect, thank you. So we're going to go and talk about the top 3 reasons to kick the paper habit. The first one is to become more efficient, right? And I'm assuming that a lot of you that are currently storing your documents digitally, whether you're scanning them into SharePoint or you're on a network drive, trying to get away from those filing cabinets, you are probably trying to eliminate the 20 to 30% of the day that it takes to file documents, search for documents, and retrieve documents. We also know by eliminating paper, we're going to eliminate those, hopefully, those lost documents, right? 1 out of every 10 documents are lost or misfiled. When you go to a digital system, a document management electronic filing system like PaperSave, the documents become 1 click away, and I'm going to actually demonstrate that to you today. If the documents are at your fingertips, what are you able to do? You're able to be more efficient by answering customer service questions, and that customer service might be to your actual customers, or it might be to your internal staff, answering questions in terms of, have we paid this vendor yet? Also, by going paperless, you're going to reduce audit preparation time. One of the key features of PaperSave that I'll show you today, for those of you who are using document management, or are using Dynamics GP, is the ability to do a smart list and see documents. So paper costs us a lot of money, not only in the tangible, the amount of paper that we use, but it costs $20 to file a document. And on average, it takes 6 minutes to get up from your desk, to answer a question, get up from your desk, go to the filing cabinet, retrieve that document, maybe photocopy it, get it to the person that needs that information, or back to the vendor or whomever it is to answer the question, and then file it back. So it costs your company $20 to file a document, 6 minutes to get up and retrieve that document. And look at that second question. How much does it cost to fill a 4-drawer filing cabinet? $25,000. That number is the time that it takes, the real estate that it takes in your office, and the maintenance of that filing cabinet, keeping unloading it and filling it back up every time you close a year. So kicking the paper habit is going to help you become more efficient. The second reason to kick the paper habit is to streamline and automate PaperSave or paper-based processes. And what does that mean? When you think about your processes in-house in accounting, there's a lot of paper clipping and a lot of stapling that goes along with your job to get things in a filing cabinet. whether it's on the purchasing side where you're stapling a purchase order to a receiving packing slip, or to an invoice, to a check, or on the sales side where it's an order, an invoice, and the cash receipt that order generated, stapling that and putting that into a filing cabinet. There's a lot of that going on. PaperSave will automate that matching of those documents and eliminate that for you. So another reason to kick the paper habit is to streamline and automate those processes. We have what's called automate the filing with scan first capture. We're going to talk about that. We can also automate the filing process and the capture by doing transaction automation. We're going to talk about that. That's eliminating data entry. So the first reason is to become more efficient. The second reason is to streamline and automate those paper-based processes like stapling and filing, and then also approval. We'll talk about that as well. And the third reason to kick the paper habit is to connect and collaborate. And what I mean by that is when you think about a piece of paper, only one person can hold that paper at any given time. Or you're having to multiply that piece of paper, photocopying it or sending it out as hard copy, or even attaching it to an email as an attachment. It might be electronic, but now you've got multiple images of that document out there. If you can have your documents in one central location, allowing remote offices or employees to access those documents, great, you become more efficient. Think about the filing cabinet scenario that you have now. If somebody has the rights to go into that filing cabinet, they can open up every drawer, they can open up every file, and they can see every document in there. By using a document management workflow and automation system like PaperSave, you can actually set security around those documents. So you can connect employees to those documents, but also have all the security and regulations around those documents. That makes you meet those, your auditor's requirements, your local municipality requirements, and all of those legal and regulatory like HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, and those types of regulatory compliances that you need when you're talking about HR documents and so on. So PaperSave is going to allow you to kick that paper habit. It's going to make you more efficient. You're going to be able to streamline and automate paper-based processes. And we're going to give you the ability to connect your employees or staff to those documents without jeopardizing the security around those documents. PaperSave is one piece of software, but it really has three different components that all work together, now allowing you to implement in stages if you'd like. The first piece of PaperSave is the document management area. Document management is the capture, the storage, the retrieval, the security, and the retention around your documents. So again, for those of you who are using the filing cabinets or a network drive someplace to store your documents, PaperSave is going to eliminate that for you, making it very efficient. The second piece of PaperSave is the electronic workflow, the ability to route the documents throughout your organization, whether everybody's under one roof or you've got multiple locations around the world. One document can be routed for approval and review, all electronically, giving insight to the people in accounting on where that document is at all times. So again, no more wondering where a document is in the workflow for approval. You're going to be able to see that. So when a vendor or a customer calls about an order, an employee calls about the approval of a PTO request, you're going to know exactly where that is for them, giving you more efficiency in your daily processes. The third piece of PaperSave is what we refer to as AP transaction automation. AP transaction automation is a fancy term for eliminating manual data entry. So what we do is we're going to be able to capture data off of an image, particularly accounts payable invoices, populate particular fields, and we're going to talk about this and show this in a demo, route the document maybe for an approval process, right, if that's what needs to take place, and then create a transaction inside of Dynamics GP with all of that data. So eliminating that manual data entry that happens daily to get transactions created in the system. So today we're going to go through all of that. PaperSave can address all of those needs: document management, workflow, and automation by the manual creation or the electronic creation of those documents within the system. And so we're going to launch our next poll before we go into the demonstration. And I want to talk about, of those 3 items, what is most important to you? And I think I launched that poll.
Yes.
So we'll take a moment to look at that. And remember, in these polls, no right or wrong. What are you looking for in helping your organization become more efficient, streamlining those approval processes, or maybe eliminating that manual data entry because you've got a lot of other more important things to do than data entry into a system? So it's an overwhelming result of all of the above. So that is very good news. So PaperSave is going to be able to address all of those needs. And today, in the time that we have, I'm going to touch on all of these areas inside of PaperSave. So let's get started within the demonstration. Before I get started, I do want to talk about today's demonstration and what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus today on accounts payable. Why do we start here? Because we know in the world of accounting, typically, not always, but typically, accounts payable is the most paper-intensive process within your organization in the accounting department. And it's riddled with overhead costs, right? There's cost to file, cost to transport documents between locations, time to field vendor inquiries, time to maintain that filing cabinet, overhead to pay invoices. So we focus on that today in a webcast only because we know that a lot of times that's the most cost-laden area within your organization. And we can reduce those monthly closing costs, automate the filing. That's what PaperSave does. But we know that there are other areas that cause pain within your organization. So PaperSave's motto is, why stop at AP with a document management workflow automation tool when you've got operational costs in other areas within your organization as well? You've got documents that need to be supporting your journal entries, your petty cash, your bank statements. On the sales side, you've got those orders, the packing slips, the picking tickets, delivery tickets. If you have HR, which I'm sure most of you do, whether you're using inside of Dynamics GP or outside of Dynamics GP, HR is another very high document, paper-riddled department that has very tight securities around it, and who gets to see what, and making sure that documents pertaining to employees are kept secure. If they're in a paper environment, I can tell you that that's not a very secure environment. We think it's secure, we hold the key in our hand, but PaperSave allows you to set security, redact information, hide information from other employees that might have access to certain types of documents, but not others. We can track reviews. So with inside the document world in an organization, it's not just about accounts payable. There are other areas of consideration, and PaperSave can handle all of them. But in today's demonstration, we're going to focus on accounts payable. but I stress this because I want you to know if AP is not your main pain point today, we want to know that. So let us know, and we can do a demonstration around these other areas of importance to you. In the accounts payable world, this is the process that typically happens. A document is brought in, it's approved, a check is produced, and it's sent out. In PaperSave, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make that an automated process. And by doing that, we're going to capture the document. We're going to eliminate data entry by extracting the data. We're going to send it out to managers for approval. We're going to create the transaction. We can also capture an image of the check. And we're going to then automatically file and match that for you. So we're going to go ahead and, oops, I wanted to stop that before we got to that screen. Sorry about that. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to actually jump into the software. And I'm going to talk about that process for accounts payable. We're going to capture some documents. We're going to route it for approval. And we're going to create the transaction inside of PaperSave. Inside of Dynamics GP. So the first step of any process is the capturing of the document. And capturing of the document is part of the first piece of PaperSave, document management. The capture, the storage, the retrieval, the security, and the retention is all about capturing, is all about the document management. Now, one of the poll questions that we could ask is how many of you receive your documents via paper or via email? My guess is that you're going to get we're going to get a lot of responses to that in terms of a combination of the two. So one of the things that I think is very unique about PaperSave is our ability to capture all types of documents, whether you're receiving paper, whether a document comes to you as an attachment in an email, whether you're creating that document as a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet, whether it was a picture of an expense invoice that you took and you needed to submit into PaperSave, we can handle all of those ways of getting a document into the system. I'm going to touch on a few. One of the things that we can do is monitor an email address. So if you've got a central email address, maybe apinvoices@yourorganization.com, PaperSave can monitor that email address and automatically pull those attachments into a workflow for processing. We also know that, and sales orders might be another area. HR might have another area that employees send their PTO requests to, or their vacation requests to, change of beneficiaries, things like that. We can monitor those email addresses. But we also have a full integration with Outlook, Microsoft Office, and Outlook. And right along the toolbar, I can take this invoice and I can drop it into a workflow. So remember, in today's webcast, we're going to talk about the process around a day in the life of an invoice. So I'm going to take this invoice, I'm going to drop it into a workflow, and that's the first capture method. I've taken an electronic document, I've said I want to add it to a particular drop point, which is a workflow, and I've now electronically put that document into our first process. And the first process is an electronic workflow that's going to route this Best Buy document to the appropriate manager for approval. Once all of that's done, it's going to automatically create a transaction inside of Dynamics GP. Because along with putting that document into the workflow, I have also told the system that to do OCR on it. OCR is optical character recognition. Optical character recognition is part of the transaction automation module. What does that do? That actually takes information off of an invoice and populates profile fields. I'm going to show you another capture method, which is scanning. That's what you're going to do when you have paper. And you're actually going to see that happen, the OCR, the optical character recognition. You don't see it happen on that electronic document because it's happening behind the scenes. That's why I like to show scanning. A lot of you are probably still receiving paper. I'm assuming that because the majority of you were still filing paper. So you're probably getting paper, or if they're electronic, you're printing them out to get them into the filing cabinet. But if they're electronic, you can keep them electronic and drop them in the workflow, just like I did with that Best Buy invoice. But I also know we're going to scan documents because we get paper. So I've come into what's called PaperSave Scan. PaperSave Scan is a component of PaperSave that allows you and users to pick the workflow that you want to drop documents into. Now, again, we're talking about invoices. So I'm going to take a stack of invoices, drop them into that same workflow that I just put that Best Buy document into, and I'm going to hit scan. So you should hear my scanner. And when I say that it's doing OCR, optical character recognition, this is what I mean. Down here, OCR is in progress, right? And what's going to start happening is the fields. Now you just saw that Northwinds Trader populate. It's going to start populating. These are profile fields in PaperSave, so it just did data entry for 3 transactions. Now, I used to be an accounts payable administrator way back when. I can tell you I couldn't do data entry that quickly, right? So OCR is taking what information it can off of the invoice, and it's populating the data into these profile fields. Now, these profile fields are completely customizable, customer defined, which means I can have different types of profile fields here. So maybe I want to route this to a particular manager, and I can have a list of my managers that these are going to go to. It might be an individual. It could be by department. So I can pick this and send it off to that person right away into the workflow for them to approve, right? I also can put in my distribution. So if you are the individual who's required to put in the GL distribution, I can do that at this time. This is a table. This is a lookup field right into the chart of accounts inside of GP. I can filter. I could type the number. I could type in supplies, right? That's going to allow me to do the distribution. Maybe you aren't the one who does it. That's okay. Quinn, my manager, can also do that, and I'll show you. With inside of GP, for those of you who are using Dynamics GP as your accounting system, we're fully integrated with it. So what that means is because it found Northwinds Trader's name and the vendor ID with inside of GP, when I tab off of this, if I have defaults set up on my vendor card inside of GP, it will automatically populate that data for me. Great. Again, eliminating data entry, right? Because that's what the transaction automation module is all about. It's eliminating that manual data entry so that, one, what can we do? We can speed up the entry of the invoices. We also can eliminate data entry errors, right? So we can do all of that from this capture area. Now, one of the things I do want to mention about transaction automation is that it might not be 100% all the time. What do I mean by that? Let's say it didn't find the invoice number. Well, all I have to do is point and click to the invoice number, and it populates it. And then I can learn this information. So it becomes smarter and smarter the more you use it. That OCR, optical character recognition, starts learning your invoices so that then all of the information is found and populated, again, eliminating that manual data entry. It even formats dates correctly if they're in that a different format than GP needs, right, or your accounting system. Now I'm going to send these all off to Quinn. Quinn is the manager I played during my demonstrations. So what have I done so far? I've taken an electronic document, that Best Buy, and I kept it electronic, and I put it into the workflow. OCR happened. So I did some document management. I did some capture, right? I scanned documents. I did OCR. I did some data entry in terms of GL distribution if I needed to. I routed those documents to the manager for approval. So we now have 4 documents in the workflow process. So we did a part of document management, capture. We did the first part of the transaction automation by pulling data off of the invoice. And now we're kind of in that workflow area. This is the area that truly, from an accounting standpoint, you kind of lose track of where those documents are, right? I remember as accounts payable, what would happen is that I would send all of my original invoices out. Back then it was inter-office mail. Unfortunately, I was accounting before we even had email, believe it or not. That's how long ago it was. And so I had a red folder with photocopies of all of my invoices. When a vendor called up, what did I have to do? I had to flip through that folder to see if I had the copy of it. If I did, that means I hadn't gotten it back from whoever I sent it off to for approval. And now I had to track it down, right? I had to get up or get on the phone and try to find that invoice. Well, with an electronic system, you in accounting are always going to know where those documents are at any time in the process, which gives you insight. You know where those items are. So that's what we're going to kind of delve into right now, is that approval process. And so I'm going to talk about notification first, because one of the things that people are afraid of when it comes to electronic documents and workflow is, how do these people who aren't in the accounting world know that they've got documents? Because we're so used to seeing physical pieces of paper on our desk or multiple emails with attachments. How do they know? And why do I, in accounting, have to be that constant reminder? Well, PaperSave takes care of all of that. Anybody who plays a role inside of a workflow, whether they're the person who might be routing the document to an individual for approval, whether it's the person who's who's that first level of approval, or the director or that higher echelon of approver, because sometimes documents need more than one approver. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. Hey, sometimes they might need 3 approvers. Or whether it's that person in accounting who's waiting for the documents to come back. Everyone will get an email notification letting them know that they've got documents in their inbox, PaperSave workflow inbox, waiting for approval. And so each individual gets their own email. It's going to tell them, so this is Quinn, this is my manager, Quinn. Quinn right here, she's got 46 invoices sitting in her workflow. This email will go out to Quinn as frequently as you want. So guess what, accounting? You don't have to be that constant reminder, that constant nagger about, hey, you've got documents to approve. Why haven't you approved this? PaperSave's going to do that. This email can go out hourly, daily, weekly, every other day, however frequently as you want. For them to get to the documents, they only need to click on one of these hyperlinks within the system or within their email to get to their documents. Now, we actually have a mobile app. I'm not going to demonstrate that today, but they can download from the App Store for their iPhone or their Android a mobile app. They can be anywhere in the world as long as they have their smartphone or their smart device, an iPad or tablet. They're going to be able to approve documents. So there's no more excuses, right? So I'm going to play Quinn, and I'm not going to click on this.
Tammy.
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second, just because of where you are. I think that it probably makes sense to ask this question that's come in. Um, it, we have someone who's asked if, as part of the GL code distribution, can we also see how project codes can be assigned?
Yes, that's a great question, and I'm actually going to cover that in this workflow. So, so I can show how they can actually fill in that GL distribution. I'm going to do it at Quinn's level, at Quinn's management level, but it really can be done at different areas, and you determine where that is in the workflow. Who's responsible for that? And then ultimately, if accounting, you want your managers to do that distribution, the last step in my process is accounting. So accounting is always going to have that last right of refusal. So they can either change it or they can send it back to that manager for correction. All right. So here I am. I'm playing Quinn. Quinn has 34 documents in her workflow, right? So what happened, she got that email, she clicked on her hyperlink, it took her right to her workflow. Here are all of her documents. They're listed down here individually. So listen, if Quinn is looking for a specific invoice out of these 34, she can filter by any of these columns. I'm just going to deal with the first one, right? That's up in my columns. I get to see the document. If there were additional pages, I'd see additional pages. Here's that distribution. All right, so if Quinn, the manager, is responsible for that, Quinn's going to be able to come in here, look this up. Now, you can type in the account number, but I'm going to do it by reference because maybe she doesn't know those. And I'm going to say search. So I'm going to look for supplies. Now, I get to see every account in my make-believe world because I can do everything in my system. But let's say Quinn is in the sales department. Well, the sales department is the 300 series. The first three digits segment are my departments in my GL distribution in my GP system. So if Quinn is in the sales department and she types in supplies, you can limit what she can choose from. She can only choose, or see, not choose, but see the 300 series. So if she chooses that, that will go there, right? She then can have multiple columns as well. So this invoice is actually $545. So let's say that she puts in $550. If I update this, the system is going to say, hey, Quinn, your debit amount does not match the invoice amount. So it is goof-proof, right? So she's going to be able to won't be able to approve this until this is actually balances. And I could actually have more than one line. I'm just going to put in one line. So hopefully that answered the question for that individual that asked. But that's how that distribution can be done. And again, it can be done anywhere in your approval process. I'm just showing it to you at the accounting level or at the manager's level. The manager at this point can approve or reject. Now, these approve and review buttons are completely customer defined. I have the ability at this step as a manager in my workflow to hit approve or reject. This manager, you could have things like on hold or reroute. But I'm going to hit approve. And you can have rules within the workflow that will automatically prompt for a comment. This automatic prompt can be based on a dollar amount. It might be based on a GL distribution. It might be also based on the review button. So if you want a comment to always be required when somebody hits reject, great, you can make this comment box pop up. Mine just pops up so I can talk about it. I don't know if you'd necessarily want a comment on every approval, but you could. That's there for you, and I, can say okay to pay, right? I'm going to say don't show this again. And now that document goes off to the next step in the workflow. Just a little sidestep about workflows. Workflows are completely customer defined. Although we're talking about an accounts payable approval workflow, you literally in PaperSave can have an approval process around any document that you need somebody to approve, review, see before a transaction is created, or see after a transaction is created. And it could be any type of document. It might be a journal entry, supporting document to a journal entry. Again, it might be that HR paid time off request. It also could be a customer contract. We're talking about things that are related to Dynamics GP, but I want you to know that PaperSave also has the ability to do all of this outside of GP. But today's webcast is focusing on our integration into Dynamics GP. So I go along the way, maybe I'm just going to tab off of this, and again, it populates that GL distribution, and I'm going to hit approve. And where does this document go next? I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. From my standpoint of a manager who's approving, my role is to approve. My role might be to put in the distribution, but the main role is to approve it in a timely manner, right? Where it goes after that is no longer up to me to decide. And typically, that is the area of bottleneck, right? Somebody looks at something and goes, oh yeah, I know I have to approve that, but I also have to think about where it goes and who I should send it to. With rules in an electronic process, it takes care of all of that procrastination on an individual's point, because the rules are written around, you know, I've got one that's written around the dollar amount. If it's over that particular manager's threshold, it goes off to the next step in the approval process. You can also have it around the GL distribution, a project, the department, the location, any of those combinations, the vendor, right? Where does this go after that individual approves it? You can have those rules inside the workflow. So I'm just going to go ahead and approve a few of these. All right? So that's easy, right? An individual gets an email, lets them know they've got documents. They click on a hyperlink. PaperSave's workflow window opens up, listing all of their documents. They might put in the GL distribution. Maybe they don't. Maybe they can change it if there's defaults, right? Maybe they can't. Again, that's up to you. They hit approve and reject, and they're done. That's how easy it is for an individual to approve a document in PaperSave's workflow. Now I'm going to filter here, and I'm going to play the director, because in my make-believe world, that's the next step of approval, right? I've got some documents that might have gone over after the manager approved it, might have gone over to accounting because it only required one approval. In some, I might have needed the director's approval because I've got a threshold around the dollar amount. So here I am, I'm the director, but keep in mind, the director gets their email, right? They get notified just like everybody else, and they click on that hyperlink and they go right to their inbox. They don't have to log into PaperSave. We can talk more about that later. We already know who they are, and they click on it and they get into their, in this case, I'm playing Ryan right now. Ryan has 5 documents, and here's the first one. And one of the things I want you to see is I want you to see that there now are 2 other areas of the workflow window. And these are areas of detail about the audit log and what happened to this document prior to arriving in Ryan's inbox. Ryan now can see, oh, hey, this was in Quinn's inbox, and Quinn approved it a minute ago, 2 minutes ago. Well, actually, Tammy did, because I'm the one that's logged in. PaperSave is actually logging who is the person who performed the review action. Very important when you're talking about regulatory compliances and all of that. But I'm going to go ahead and hit approve. And again, I might get to reroute this to somebody else. Maybe for things over 15,000, it's got to go to a 3rd level of approval. Whatever might be the case of your rules, it takes it into that next step, right? So before I get to my last step of the process, Remember I said early on that with an electronic approval process with PaperSave's workflow, accounting can always see where those documents are. You don't lose sight of them. I'm in the workflow. I've said I've cleared this step out. Let's say that a vendor has called. Let's say it's Best Buy. And Best Buy is wanting to know where their invoice is, payment on their invoice. Well, again, you no longer have your red folder like I had before, right? You now have the ability to go in and say, I don't care what step the invoice is. I want to search for all of my vendors that contain the word Best Buy or Best, right? So I've now narrowed that down to, I think there's probably over 100 of them in there, to just a handful. And now I can see where they are in the workflow step. Now I've said, show me my entered ones. I don't care about my entered ones. I only want to see where are they. I've got some in the rejected step. I've got some in AP. I can find the invoice number, right, that I'm looking for, the dollar amount. So I can see all of this and go, oh, here's the, well, I took away the filter of Best Buy, but I could say, here's the one that I'm looking for. And I can email this out to an individual and say, hey, we need to process this right away, right? So you always have the ability to see those documents. All right. That's the beauty of an electronic process like PaperSave that gives you that insight. You don't have to filter through papers. You don't have to pick up the phone and make all those phone calls to find out where it is. You might have sent it to one person in your manual process right now, but they forwarded it on to somebody else, right? All right, so let's go to that last step. So what have I done? Just again, to recap very quickly, I've captured some documents. That's document management. I did the first part of the transaction automation module, which is the OCR, the optical character recognition. Remember, it populated these fields. We did workflow. Managers approved it. Directors approved it. They did the coding. Now I'm at that last step of my workflow, which is the accounts payable. In my make-believe world, everything comes back to Kevin Bauer. That's my accounts payable person. No relation, by the way. It's just a made-up name. I'm Tammy Bauer, by the way. Anyways, so at this point, Kevin has 22 documents. Kevin could click all of these and hit submit and make 22 transactions inside of GP automatically. I'm going to go and I'm going to do one at a time. And the reason for that is because I need to change the the invoice number here. PaperSave can check for duplicates. Unfortunately, every one of my invoices are a duplicate, so I have to change the invoice number to overcome the duplicate check that PaperSave does and overcome the blocking of creating a transaction in GP by their rules. So I'm going to change that. Typically, you're never going to give the ability to change this invoice number. But accounting, all you have to do now, look at the distribution, see who approved it, and hit submit. And I've literally just created that Citrix transaction in GP. We're going to go ahead and make one for Attractive Telephone. And I've hit submit. Now I only have a submit button here. I could have a reroute. I could have a reject. I could send this off to somebody else, right? There's a lot of different rules that I can have with inside my workflow. But at the end of the day, I don't have to do any data entry. Oh, that's an interesting document that's been captured there. We'll skip that one. All right, so we've just created several documents, or transactions, just because only a short period of time, I'm going to do just 3 of them. So we've done document management, first part, we've done some capturing. We did the first part of the transaction automation with the OCR. We did workflow. I just did the last part of transaction automation with the submission of the data, which created a transaction inside of GP. Now I'm back into GP, and we're going to do document management, which is retrieval. And I'm going to retrieve those transactions. Remember, I didn't have to do any data entry. All I had to do was hit that submit button, right? So I'm going to go into GP, and I'm going to pull up that Citrix transaction. It created the transaction. It put in the distribution. And see this bubble down here that popped up? Oops. That's PaperSave. That's PaperSave telling you that there's a document associated to this transaction. Anytime you capture a document, whether it's the way that I've just done it, whether you are adding an additional document to this transaction down the road, however you bring it in and associate it, PaperSave is going to let you know that there's a document. To see it, I simply click on the document or the hyperlink, and it opens it up. So think about the inquiries that you might get. You get called up, somebody, maybe it's Quinn. Quinn says, hey, I don't remember approving that attractive telephone invoice. Quinn is not a GP user. You haven't given Quinn the rights to see her own documents, although you can. You just haven't. She's now called you up, or maybe you haven't. She just doesn't want to do her own inquiry, right? So what do? You go to the transaction, you pull it up, you say, you're right, Quinn. You didn't approve it. Tammy did. How do you know that? Because you can see the workflow history here. You can see that Tammy approved it instead of Quinn. And what do? You can email a hyperlink of this same document right out to Quinn. Quinn gets the email. I don't have an email address for Quinn, but Quinn gets it. All she has to do is click on the hyperlink. You haven't duplicated the document. You haven't had to get up from your desk. You hadn't had to search in the filing cabinet. You didn't have to photocopy it. And more importantly, you did not have to file it back, right? All you had to do was navigate to that transaction, click on the bubble that PaperSave tells you you've got a document, hit email link, send it off to her. And all the while, PaperSave is also creating an audit log on who's viewed this document. We know when it was created, and it's me that's viewed it twice, right? So very simple, getting to a document is navigating to that transaction with inside of GP. All right, so we're going to close that up. We're very short on time here. I'm going to do a couple more retrievals, and then we'll open it up to questions and our last poll. I'm going to do Smart List. One of the things that PaperSave can do is give you documents related to a Smart List. Now, I'm not a Smart List guru, so I'm going to create a very simple Smart List, and I'm going to say, give me all of my payable invoices, transactions, between a certain dollar amount. Think about the auditors that might come in, or the end of the month, or the end of the year, or somebody who's trying to do a budget and they want to see everything that they spent on in a certain, vendor. Well, GP has done the hard work. It's pulled 294 documents. All I have to do is come up to additional from the Smart List results and say show documents. Within seconds, PaperSave has pulled these documents. Now, it doesn't open them, but it gives a summary of them. If it's me that wants to see them, who's performed the Smart List, all I have to do is click on the box, and I can flip through them one at a time. I can see all of the notes, all of the workflow, approval process. All of that is right here in my, at my fingertips. If I wanted to get that to somebody else, here's the beautiful thing. All you have to do is export this out into an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to set some columns because it's important so that it looks nice, right? I don't care about file name. I don't care about format type. I do want ID, and I'm going to export this out into an Excel spreadsheet. What can I do with an Excel spreadsheet? I can share it, right, via email. When that person opens up this Excel, look what they have over here. They have a hyperlink right back to the document. So retrieving a document is very, very simple. Navigate to the transaction and see the document. I can even go to, in this example, I could go to a vendor card and see all the documents related to that vendor regardless of what it is. I can do a smart list and then share all of those documents. There are a lot of different ways to get to the documents. There are a lot of different ways that I didn't show today to capture documents. In this short time, I wanted to give you a flavor of the approval, the automation, the document management of PaperSave, and let you know what it has available to you. We're going to go to the end here, right? All right.
Thanks, Tammy. That was
yeah.
okay. Sorry, go ahead. I'm jumping
I was
ahead.
just going to say, so no, that's okay. I was just going to say, I am done here, but I do want to just, remind everybody that when you're evaluating solutions, don't stop at just accounts payable. Although that's what we focused on today, PaperSave can do all of the things that I've shown you today in other areas throughout Dynamics GP.
Great, thanks, Tammy. And before we do move on to questions, I just thought I'd touch a bit on what the methodology is for implementation. I'm going to go through this really quick because I know that we're really running out of time. So the first step is to complete what we call a discovery. This is where we gather all your requirements by meeting with your key stakeholders in the organization, and we review your policies. We then document and model the future state of your business processes, and we deliver that in the form of a business requirements document or a BRD. Once we receive sign-off on that BRD, we move into the configuration and the training phase. This is also where we complete any data migration that might be required or build any interfaces to other systems if those are needed. All our projects are carefully managed by an assigned project manager, and they keep our clients up to date on the status tasks, the budget, and the timelines. Finally, once we go live, we receive confirmation from the client that everything is working as it should, and we get formal sign-off. We then transition you over to our support group. So we have a dedicated team of support staff available to assist with any support items going forward. So we don't just implement and walk away. We're there for you throughout the entire life cycle of the solution. So we're going to launch that last poll question, if you wouldn't mind, Selena, which is, what is your timeline for going paperless? And just while people are submitting their answers, as Tammy said, a reminder to people that when you're thinking about going paperless, think about how PaperSave can be leveraged throughout the organization. As Tammy said earlier, there's a lot of other departments in the organization who are very paper burdened and who have manual processes that could be automated. So this is not just a finance solution. Just keep that in mind as you're thinking about that. So if we go to the results, we can see here that 0 to 6 months is, so people are looking to go paperless, sooner rather than later. So that's great to hear. So if you want to have a further conversation to see if PaperSave would be a good fit for your organization, please go ahead and contact Selena. She'll be happy to set up a conversation with us over here at Emergence to kind of get that moving along. So we're going to go ahead and take those questions now. We only have a couple, so we will get through them very quickly. Just a reminder, if you do have any more questions, please go ahead and submit them in your control panel. So the first question that we have, Tammy, is related to that other question that came in about the project code. So really what he wanted to know was if PaperSave integrates with project accounting. So if an expense related a transaction is inputted, it'll have an allocated GL account for OPEX purposes, but it'll also have a project number for project accounting purposes. So just wanted to know if there's an integration with project accounting.
Absolutely there is, yes. And it would be reflected if you have projects in that distribution grid, just like it would be in GP when you're doing your allocations
Awesome.
in GP. So yes.
Okay. Perfect. Great. Thank you for that. The next question is, do you have to be a Dynamics GP user to use PaperSave?
No, you do not. That's another great thing. You can have the ability to view documents, add documents, approve documents without having to be a Dynamics GP user.
Okay. Next one is, can PaperSave be used for non-GP related documents?
Yes, absolutely. That could be actually a whole other webcast if you'd like. But yes, you can. You can use PaperSave throughout your organization.
Yeah, I thought you used some really good examples for HR because they do tend to be very paper burdened. So that's really great. So yeah, if you have something specific in mind, please contact Selena, and we'd be happy to address that for you. Can you input historical documents into PaperSave, or is it just for new things as they're coming in?
Nope. If you have the ability to capture documents from past, present, and into the future, so we can capture historical documentation as well.
Okay, perfect. And the last question that we have today is PaperSave on-premise or in the cloud?
Great question, and the answer to that is both.
Great.
We have both options for you.
Okay, so we actually had two more questions that have come in while you were answering that. So I'm just going to go over to those. Does PaperSave also integrate with Dynamics 365 Business Central?
Absolutely it does, yes. Yes. And so what you've seen here today, PaperSave has those same capabilities inside of that ERP system as well. It just looks, PaperSave is the same. It's just the interaction between when you're retrieving documents, you'll be doing that obviously through D365. So yes.
Okay, great. Another question is, does PaperSave integrate with third-party solutions such as Workplace for purchase orders?
Yes, it does. We do have an integration with Workplace.
Okay, great. And if you have any other third parties that you're wishing to integrate with, let us know, and we can address whether or not the integrations are already built or whether or not they need to be built specifically for you. So we can certainly address that as well. Last question is, does PaperSave have any limitations?
Limitations. I'm going to say no. I mean, I've been with the company for 12 years, and if you can think it and you do it, PaperSave typically can handle it in the document management, workflow, and automation world.
Great. So it looks like we've covered all the questions, Tammy. Was there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
I don't have anything. Just thank you very much
Okay.
for the opportunity.
Great. Okay, so I'd just like to point out that we've made a PaperSave brochure available for you to download in the handout section in the control panel. The brochure goes into more detail about the integration points with GP, so if you'd like to look at that, please go ahead and download it. Also, if you think others in your organization would get value from this webinar, a recorded version will be available and sent to you, so please feel free to share it with your colleagues. We can also offer you a tailored demo that speaks specifically to your company's requirements. So if that's something you'd like to do, again, please reach out to Selena and she'll be happy to schedule that tailored demo for you. Finally, a survey will pop up on your screen when you close the webinar today, so please take a few seconds to answer that survey. Your feedback is extremely helpful in making sure that we're delivering the content that you want to hear about. So we thank you in advance for providing it. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good day, everyone.